For the past couple of years, I have felt this longing. There's been this feeling like something is missing, something is not quite right. And for a while, I wasn't really able to pinpoint what it was that I was longing for. But the more that I felt into it, the more it started to become clear that I was longing for a reconnection. A connection back to myself, back to my body, back to nature, back to the land, back to my ancestors, and back to natural ways of living. A longing for that connection, that remembering of where we come from and what it actually means to be human. A longing for the village, the traditions, a more intentional, connected way of living. And I mean, it's really tangible, right? Despite all the advanced technology and the conveniences that modern life brings, so many people these days are feeling lonely, anxious, stressed, isolated, lost, overwhelmed, anxious, and at some level, I believe, empty. And I think for a big part, it's because we have moved so far away from things that humans naturally need. Somewhere along the way, convenience has replaced that connection that we so deeply crave at our core. And when you think about it, it's actually crazy how much humanity has forgotten in just a few generations. Think about how much knowledge was passed down for centuries, which then just disappeared within 1 to 3 generations. Our ancestors knew how to grow food, how to live off the land, how to preserve food, how to use herbs, support the body naturally, build community, live with the seasons and natural rhythms, live slower and with more intention. Not because it was trendy, but because that was simply life. And now so many people don't even know where their food comes from. And we rely on systems outside of ourselves almost entirely and have outsourced our health, our food, wisdom, and even just basic living skills. So modern life brought us convenience, but also dependency. And this isn't about rejecting all modern life. Modern technology and medicine can be incredible tools, but somewhere along the way we became disconnected from our bodies, from our intuition, from nature, from food, community, and our natural rhythms. Our food has become ultra-processed, health has become outsourced, and the communities are missing. Many people in today's modern world spend most of their time indoors under artificial lights, never really going to nature, never even really seeing the sun or putting their bare feet on the earth, feeling stressed, living with no purpose, and having low energy levels. So the modern way of living, especially in the West, unfortunately oftentimes comes with a lot of isolation and stress and hyper-individualism. And no wonder, it's like for thousands of years, humans evolved in connection with the earth, and it was almost like overnight that we got disconnected from the very things that regulate and nourish us. And hence I feel like it's actually very natural that people worldwide are starting to long for this connection, long for a different way of living. People are beginning to remember where we came from and what we actually need. I mean, think about it, so many people collectively are suddenly drawn to like ancestral ways of eating and eating real food and more slow, intentional living. Nervous system healing, natural remedies, homesteading, gardening, less consumption, more nature, community, and more real connection. And personally, when I started to become aware of what I was actually longing for, I first, to be completely honest, had this idea that now we need to buy land somewhere off grid and build our house and build the community from scratch and grow our own food and have our own well and have our own animals and basically be completely disconnected from the modern system and the modern world. And maybe at some point, if that feels aligned, we will move more towards that direction. But for now, realistically, it actually feels more aligned to bring those things into the modern way of living, whilst building that reconnection into our daily life and rhythms. So some personal examples how I've been bringing this into our life for me and my family has been sourcing our food as much as possible, seasonal and local and straight from the farmers, and actually cooking with a lot of intention, like putting love into it and taking it more slow and seeing food as the medicine as it is and the life force, and using more herbs and being aware of the season, like what is my internal season within my cycle, for example, what is the external season, what does my body, do our bodies need in this moment, and if someone is like, you know, a little bit getting a cold or whatnot, like how can I support our health and bring the body back to balance using foods and using herbs. And also more intentional eating in general, like slowing down and being present when I eat, chewing properly and being appreciative, like really kind of sitting with it, like who made the food come to the table, like the whole process of the land to the farmers, to the distributors, and to me putting all that love and energy into cooking that food. So I used to maybe, you know, watch something at the same time or be like in a rush and like doing a million things and not really pay attention, seeing food more as like a fuel and a quick thing and not really think about it. But that's really brought a lot of, I don't know, like slowness and presence, especially now having my 2-year-old. I really try to make the mealtime like a nourishing experience for us and teach him as well that connection to the food and how it's such a crucial part in our lives, right? But it's crazy how kind of with the modern fast lifestyle and the fast food, we've so disconnected from this. And it's really empowering and for me it's been really fun really to look up all these things about what kind of herbs did they used to use for different ailments and when getting sick and all these things. And it's really powerful. It's such a new world for me and I've been really enjoying it. And with that also discovering like old traditional ancestral like folk remedies, you know, like when I'm sick or my baby boy is sick, like I started to learn about putting onions in the feed and making our own cough syrup and all these kind of things that have been used for centuries. So I'm really, I really try to stay away from pharmaceuticals as much as possible and as long as possible. There's a time and place for them. But it's been really fun to kind of, already with that intention of being more present and living a more slow, intentional life, kind of recognizing quite early if and when the body starts to go out of balance, like starting to recognize the signs before you're kind of like sick in the bed, right? So then being able to react to that earlier and to, you know, look up, even using the modern technology, like using AI, ChatGPT to kind of help with that. But it's been so fun to, go back to kind of those roots and back to nature with that. Also, natural beauty for me has been a big one. I love to experiment with how to enhance the beauty. How did they used to do it before we had all these modern chemical cocktails on the shelves? Like I've been really experimenting with a lot of ingredients that you can actually eat, like natural hair care, skin care, making my own products, using more like nourishing oils, using essential oils, and that's like a whole new world that I'm just kind of like scratching the surface of, and I will be sharing more about it as I go, but that's definitely something I've been loving as well. Then in general, just the basics of like getting sunlight and putting my bare feet on the earth and slowing down, creating more spaciousness, creating more intention in everything that I do, and sort of trying to reduce the noise. Like you can think of like having a lot of taps open at the same time and there's being so much like chaos. I believe also the reason why I was guided to get off Instagram and social media was because of this, to really kind of come back to presence and become more intentional of how I invest my time and what kind of life I want to lead. And I have a lot of desires, like learning to bake sourdough and learning about gardening and composting and all these things, but one step at a time. And these are just a few personal examples to kind of bring back, like it doesn't have to be something radical, I believe. Like if you're feeling that longing for reconnection, doesn't mean like, you know, you can't live in a city or you have to kind of completely flip your life around or anything like that. But it's kind of like, how can you find a way, first of all, of living that works for you and that feels aligned for you, and how can you combine the best of both worlds, like having the modern conveniences and still bring that connection, that real connection that you might be craving into your life in a way that actually serves you. And with that, yeah, I actually do believe that it is important to take a perspective or perception on this topic that's empowering. Like, it doesn't have to be this whole act of rebellion and you need to disconnect entirely from modern life and all the advanced ways and all the things. I see that also happening a little bit of like a huge resistance towards AI and the system and escaping the matrix and all these kind of ways, and whatever rocks your boat, whatever is feeling right for you, right? But I do believe that we can bring a little bit more sort of softness, or let's say like an easier access to bring more of these things and more real connection, more real community and natural rhythms and all these things that I was speaking on this video, like right now. You know, you don't have to go off grid and buy land to start. Like literally, even living in a city in an apartment without a garden, maybe, you know, can start with growing some spices, or what is it called, some herbs in your kitchen, or learning to knit woolen socks, like whatever it might be. And I think that was actually personally a big relief for me, that I don't have to like rip my whole life apart and completely change everything, but more like these things can coexist, and I can actually use, for example, AI to, in like a smart way. I believe like all this modern technology, from like, you know, our phones to the computers to AI to even like our household machines, is such a big advantage. Like, what a time we live in, because this then, you know, allows us to outsource those kind of maybe mechanical tasks that would otherwise take a lot of hours in our day, that you can, you know, let your laundry machine wash your laundry whilst you're learning about gardening or knitting or cooking using herbs, like whatever it might be that actually interests you more. So I don't think it's sort of empowering to see these modern advancements as like an enemy and something that we have to resist and fight against, because whether we like it or not, they are kind of like, I don't think, you know, they're going anywhere. So it's, I believe, more about how is your relationship with them and how you're interacting with them, and yeah, finding ways to reconnect back to what matters and back to what nourishes you and feels good and right and aligned and exciting, and allows you to live a better, healthier, more energetic, more fulfilled life. So that's my thoughts on this topic, where I'm currently at. I would love to hear what this brings up in you, where you're currently at. Please post in the comments. I would love to connect. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.